There's a sound that echoes through millions of British kitchens every single evening. Beep, beep, beep. The microwave. It's become so iconic, there's even a nickname for it: the ding dinner. For pensioners across the UK, that little plastic tray spinning behind the glass door isn't just convenient, it's survival. When you're living alone in a cold house, struggling with mobility or just too exhausted to cook from scratch, that ready meal feels like a lifeline. Pop it in, 3 minutes, done. Hot food, no fuss, sorted. Except there's something hiding in that tray. Something the packaging doesn't shout about. The NHS has been trying to warn people for years. So has Action on Salt. But millions of seniors are still eating it every single day. Industrial levels of sodium. Enough to wreck your heart without you ever knowing it was there. Here's the thing most people don't talk about. For a lot of older people in this country, eating isn't just about nutrition anymore.
It's about loneliness. Picture it. You're 78 years old. You live by yourself. Your partner's gone, the kids moved away years ago. Tea time rolls around, and the house is silent. You could cook a proper meal, sure, but turning on the oven costs a fortune now with energy prices through the roof. And honestly, cooking for one just feels sad. So you grab a ready meal from the freezer, £1.50, 3 minutes in the microwave. It's warm, it's salty, it tastes like comfort. And for a few minutes, it numbs the loneliness. I think that's the real tragedy here, if I'm being honest. The industry knows exactly who they're targeting. They know older people are on tight budgets. They know they're looking for convenience and familiarity, and they exploit it. Because while that pensioner is trying to save a few quid on heating and groceries, they're unknowingly destroying their cardiovascular health, one microwave meal at a time. But why is there so much salt in these things?
It all comes down to 3 things. First, as you age, your taste buds lose sensitivity. Food starts tasting bland. So the food industry's solution? Chuck in loads of salt to make it taste like something. Herbs? Expensive. Spices? Take time. Fresh ingredients? Forget it. Salt is cheap. Salt is fast. Salt makes everything taste better to an aging palate. Second, sodium acts as a preservative. It keeps the food shelf-stable for months in the freezer, and it makes cheap meat and rehydrated veg hold water, so that chicken breast looks juicy and plump. But really, you're paying for salty water. Third, and this is where it gets sneaky, portion manipulation. You know those traffic light labels on the front of the pack? The ones that tell you if something's high, medium or low in salt, sugar, fat? Yeah, the brands game that system. They shrink the serving size on paper so the sodium level shows up as amber or even green. But nobody eats just half a tray. The pensioner heats up the whole thing and eats it all. And suddenly, they've consumed 60% to 100% of their entire daily salt limit in one meal. The NHS recommends a maximum of 6 grams of salt per day. That's about 2,400 milligrams of sodium. Some of these ready meals hit 4 or 5 grams on their own, in one sitting. Let's talk specifics. Cottage pie, or shepherd's pie, depending on who you ask. Minced meat, mashed potato on top, lovely and soft, easy to chew. It's comfort food, it's nostalgia, it's home. Except the industrial version is a sodium bomb. The gravy? That's not real stock. It's a chemical concentrate loaded with salt. Action on Salt tested supermarket versions of this dish. They found between 3.2 and 4.5 grams of salt per portion. That's over 70% of the daily limit for someone with high blood pressure. And then there's fish pie. Now, most people think fish equals healthy, right? Omega-3, good for the heart, light and nutritious. Not when it's been turned into a ready meal.
The white sauce is industrial. The fish is often smoked haddock, which is cured in, you guessed it, salt.
A single-serve fish pie from Tesco or Sainsbury's? Between 3.5 and 4.1 grams of salt. All that omega-3 benefit? Cancelled out by the sodium overload. Honestly, it's heartbreaking. These are the dishes people grew up with, the ones that remind them of Sunday dinners with the family. And now, they're quietly contributing to strokes and heart attacks. Let's keep going. Chicken tikka masala, often called Britain's unofficial national dish, massively popular with older people because the flavour's strong enough to cut through that dulled sense of taste. But frozen or chilled curries are some of the worst offenders on the shelf. Salty marinades, concentrated sauces, pre-packaged rice. One serving of a supermarket chicken tikka masala, between 4.8 and 5.5 grams of salt. That's your entire day's allowance, gone in one tray. Then there's the Sunday roast dinner. Roast beef or chicken, gravy, Yorkshire pudding, roast potatoes. It's a British institution. But if you're an 80-year-old living alone, you're not roasting a whole joint of meat just for yourself. So you buy the microwave version to keep the tradition alive. And it's a disaster. The rehydrated gravy, the bread stuffing, the pre-roasted potatoes dusted in salt. One pack delivers between 3.8 and 4.2 grams of salt. Nostalgia with a side of hypertension. Lasagna, one of the best sellers in the budget aisles. Industrial bechamel sauce, hyper-processed beef ragu, cheap cheese. Between 3.6 and 4.0 grams of salt per 400-gram tray. The NHS has issued repeated warnings about these pasta dishes, but they're still flying off the shelves. Sausage and mash, a working-class classic, except those sausages are ultra-processed meat packed with sulfites, breadcrumb filler and salt. The mash, made from instant flakes and salted margarine. One plate, 3.9 to 4.6 grams of salt. And finally, macaroni cheese. Sounds harmless, doesn't it? Vegetarian, comforting, perfect for a cold evening. But the sauce uses emulsifying salts like sodium phosphate, and the cheese is heavily processed. One serving, 3.4 to 4.2 grams of salt. At this point, you might be wondering, is there any ready meal in this country that's actually safe? Yes, there are two.
Field Doctor. This brand was founded by doctors and nutritionists specifically to tackle this problem. Instead of relying on salt and stock cubes, they use fresh herbs, spices, garlic, lemon, and olive oil. Their meals keep the salt content between 1.5 and 1.8 grams per dish. That's solidly in the green zone on the NHS traffic light system. Then there's Cook, an independent brand that makes frozen meals the old-fashioned way. Real cooks, real kitchens, no ultra-processing. Their low salt range keeps sodium under 1.2 to 1.5 grams per portion. They build flavour using reduced vegetables, wine and herbs, not sodium chloride. Both brands exist, both are available. So why isn't everyone switching? Because there's a massive financial barrier. A cheap ready meal from the supermarket economy range costs between £1.50 and £2.50. A healthy artisan meal from Field Doctor or Cook between £4.50 and £7. When you're living on the state pension, that difference is huge.
You're forced to choose the cheap option. And here's the other problem: trust. Older people trust the brands they grew up with. They trust services like Wiltshire Farm Foods that deliver meals to pensioners. They assume that if it's marketed to seniors, it must be healthy. So they don't read the label on the back. They just eat it. And honestly, I don't blame them. The system has failed them. The industry has failed them. And the gap between what's affordable and what's healthy just keeps growing. The ding dinner has become a cornerstone of life for millions of pensioners in this country.
But the price of that convenience is far too high. Industrial fillers, portion tricks, sky-high sodium levels. What should be comfort food is turning into a cardiovascular time bomb. Brands like Field Doctor and Cook prove it's possible to make ready meals that taste good and respect people's health.
But while the mainstream industry keeps masking labels and selling salt by the bucket load, the elderly population will keep risking their longevity, one microwave beep at a time.